today's video, we're going to be talking about the Liberal Democrat Manifesto. With the UK facing numerous challenges from Brexit and the ageing population, to labour shortages and a housing crisis, how well have the Lib Dems crafted their vision for the future? First up, we're going to be talking about their green policies, and they've laid out ambitious plans to tackle climate change and promote sustainability. They plan to invest heavily in renewable power with the target of generating 90% of the UK's electricity from renewables by 2030. This includes promoting a rooftop solar revolution and expanding incentives for households to install solar panels. Lib Dems aim to cut greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2045 at the latest. This is a crucial goal in the fight against climate change, and it's heartening to see such a strong commitment. Their manifesto includes a 10-year emergency home energy upgrade program, starting with free insulation and heat pumps for low-income households. Not only help the environment, but also address the cost of living crisis by reducing energy bills. They plan to back fracking and no new coal mines. And a policy that caught my eye in particular is holding big companies accountable for their environmental impact by introducing a duty of care for the environment and regulating financial services to encourage climate-friendly investments. Something close to my heart, education. Lib Dems propose significant changes in investments. While increasing funding per pupil above inflation is proposed, it doesn't detail how it will be paid for. Their education policies also mention retaining and recruitment. It's a strategy which everyone can back, but again lacks concrete measures to address the root causes of the teacher shortages and high turnover rates. While it's ambitious as a plan, it's lacking the detail necessary to address some of the core problems. The other issues involved in all of this is obviously stuff to do with the concrete still in the walls and ceilings of schools, but there's lack of any policy acknowledgement of trying to increase student IQ. For example, you could have languages, which is known to increase IQ. Sports increases IQ. Working outdoors and in nature, and ensuring all schools have access to some sort of greenery also increases IQ. Or even as something as simple as banning homework. It's unnecessary and students are already working from 9 till 3, sometimes 9 till 5. Why are we giving them extra work, especially when that work can be completed by things such as ChatGPT, giving unfair advantages to some students? Something that most parties and mainstream media are ignoring at the moment, but Brexit. Can the Lib Dems repair the UK's relationship with Europe? It's going to be tricky, especially with this manifesto. They want to have a new comprehensive trade agreement, which the EU have said they are not willing to do at present. They do want to rejoin key programs such as Horizon, which we've already done, and Erasmus+, which would be good for our education system. And everything else is a little bit wishy-washy. They want freedom of movement, but they don't want this in terms of going back to what we had before. And that then also depends on whether the EU are willing to negotiate with that. Possibly, as they've already said and shown interest, over 18 to 13-year-olds having freedom of movement. However, with our current problems of having large numbers of people, almost the size of Glasgow, leaving annually, and having an ageing population and a low birth rate, having freedom of movement might not be the advantage that Britain needs right now. They've also said they want to streamline trade and regulatory barriers, but again, very flimsy and wishy-washy. Overall, again, they're talking about positives of trying to be with the EU, but it lacks the detail that you would hope to see in a manifesto. The future. Are the Lib Dems prepared for it? With a shrinking population, low birth rates and high rates of immigration, are the Lib Dems prepared for the demographic and labour market challenges ahead? Without a growing working age population, the economy may face significant labour shortages hindering growth. More comprehensive immigration policies to attract and retain skilled workers are needed, and it's lacking in these policies. The ageing population, which is ever increasing, is putting strains on public services like healthcare and pensions. The manifesto lacks detailed plans to handle the demographic shift and ensure sustainable support for the ageing population. So again, while the Lib Dems propose various social policies addressing these demographic challenges, it again needs more detail and targeted strategies. The housing crisis. It's another pressing issue, and do the Lib Dems have a viable plan to solve it? More concrete strategies are needed to address housing shortages and affordability issues. This includes detailed plans for new housing developments and support for first-time buyers, and while there are mentions of affordable housing, the manifesto again needs a more robust plan to tackle the housing crisis effectively, especially when we bring in other things such as the labour shortage, partly created by Brexit. We're starting to realise that we need new technologies, and it's surprising that they don't talk about 3D printing as a potential solution. what about international security threats? How do the Lib Dems plan to protect the UK? Given the rise in authoritarianism and ongoing threats from Russia, how do the Lib Dems plan to protect Britain? Well, they seem to have gone quite extensive on how they're going to deal with the Russian threat, and believe it or not, I may have played a little part in that, but that's for another story. The manifesto proposes introducing public awareness campaigns about emerging threats and misinformation campaigns online. They also advocate for a global convention or treaty to combat disinformation and electoral interference. The manifesto also wants to support Ukraine, standing with them and providing necessary support in the face of Putin's illegal invasion. So far, I'd have to say this party is actually taking the Russian interference threat quite seriously. So, is this all economically viable? Public debt? Well, they plan to increase public spending without clear and sustainable revenue streams, and that might exacerbate the national debt. The manifesto mentions managing public finances responsibly, but the specifics on balancing the budget are lacking. While reversing tax cuts for banks and imposing windfall taxes on energy companies are being proposed, these measures might not generate sufficient revenue. Additionally, these tax policies could potentially discourage investment in the UK, and that would impact economic growth further, which has been damaged further by Brexit. And the same with the green infrastructure policy. While commendable, the manifesto doesn't fully address how to bridge the gap between the upfront costs of green investments and their long-term economic benefits. So, in summary, while the Lib Dems have ambitious and progressive goals, the lack of detailed and sustainable funding strategies raises concerns about the long-term economic viability of their proposals. And it also falls short on addressing key issues that I think are vitally important to the UK right now. That includes Brexit, proposals for education, labour shortages, the ageing population, the housing crisis. It needs to be more comprehensive, but at least you could say they've taken a step in the right direction. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Has this swayed you to vote Lib Dem, or has it put you off? Have I missed anything from the manifesto? Let me know your thoughts. Once again, thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube supporters. You are awesome. You really do help this channel keep on going and growing. If you'd like to help the channel out, you can click the link to Patreon in the description. Once again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.